When my mom walked into my apartment and saw nothing but empty walls and bare floors, she thought I had been taken. She thought something terrible had happened to her daughter. She dropped her purse right there by the door, and it hit the ground with this dull, echoing sound that bounced off the empty living room. There was no couch, no TV, no plants, no shoes by the door. Just empty space where a life used to be. My dad stepped in behind her, looking around with his eyebrows pulled tight together. This has to be the wrong apartment, he muttered. But it wasn't. The number on the door was the same. The lock they opened with their copy of my key was the same. The only thing that had changed was this. I was gone. No note, no forwarding address, no, I'll explain later. Just a blank apartment and two parents who suddenly had no idea where their own daughter was. My phone lit up over and over that morning, buzzing on the coffee table in my new place. Missed calls, voicemails, messages. Where are you? Call me back right now. This isn't funny. We're calling the police. I watched the phone vibrate, my heart pounding, my stomach tight, and I did nothing. Not yet. Because for once, I wanted them to feel exactly what I'd been feeling for months. Out of control. Afraid. Shut out of a space they thought they had the right to walk into anytime they wanted. It sounds cruel, I know. If you heard only this part of the story, you might think I'm heartless. But this didn't start with an empty apartment. It started with a key. I grew up in a house where doors didn't really exist. Oh, they were physically there, sure. My bedroom had a door. The bathroom had a door. But in my family, a closed door was basically a challenge. If I ever tried to take a moment to myself and shut my bedroom door, it wouldn't stay closed for more than a minute or two. My mom would just push it open without knocking, holding a basket of laundry or nothing at all, pretending she had a reason. What are you doing? Why is this door closed? She'd demand, looking around like she was going to find some terrible secret. If I protested, she'd just say, I'm your mother. Why are you acting so suspicious? My dad wasn't much better. He had this thing he always said whenever I complained about privacy. If you have nothing to hide, you don't need privacy. He'd say it with this tone that made it sound like a fact, like something wise and undeniable, instead of what it really was, an excuse to walk into my life whenever he felt like it. I remember once, when I was 15, I was writing in my journal. Nothing dramatic, just me venting about school and a fight I'd had with my friend. I had it open on my bed while I went to the bathroom. When I came back, my mom was sitting there, flipping through it. I froze in the doorway. Mom, what are you doing? She didn't even look guilty. She just kept reading. Why didn't you tell me you got into a fight with that girl? She said. Why are you writing about me being overbearing? You think I'm overbearing? I felt like someone had peeled my skin off and left me standing there, exposed and raw. That journal was the only place I thought I could be honest, and she was tearing through it like it was a magazine on a coffee table. You're invading my privacy, I said, my voice shaking. She snorted. I'm your mother. I'm allowed to know what's going on in your life. You shouldn't be hiding things from me anyway. I learned something important that day. In my house, privacy was just another word for disrespect. Boundaries meant you're ungrateful. Needing space meant you're pulling away from family. So I stopped asking. I stopped closing my door. I stopped writing real thoughts in my journal. I started keeping things in my head instead, because that was the only place no one could burst into without warning. The older I got, the worse it felt. By the time I finished college and got my first full-time job, I felt like I'd been living under surveillance my whole life. So when I finally saved enough, when my application was approved and I got the call saying, "You've been approved for the apartment," I actually sat on the edge of my bed and cried. It wasn't fancy. One bedroom, old carpet, kind of weird yellow lighting in the kitchen. But it had a front door that locked from the inside, and for the first time in my life, that door would be mine. No one would open it unless I let them. At least that's what I thought. My parents were excited at first, or at least they acted like they were. On move-in day, my mom brought an entire trunk's worth of food, so I wouldn't starve those first few weeks. My dad helped carry boxes, complaining the whole time about how heavy they were, but clearly kind of proud I had so many. They walked through the apartment like it was a museum. The bedroom is a good size, my dad said, testing the window. The kitchen is small but cute, my mom added, opening cabinets like she was already planning where my dishes should go. I stood there, sweaty and tired and weirdly emotional, watching them. For a minute, I let myself believe that this could be a turning point, that moving into my own space would finally make them see me as an adult, a separate person, not just their daughter, but an actual woman with her own life. We ordered takeout that night and sat on the floor, eating noodles out of plastic boxes because I hadn't unpacked my plates yet. Everyone was in a good mood. We laughed. My aunt came over and said, "Look at you, living on your own like a real grown-up." My mom took pictures of everything. Me opening the door, me standing in the empty living room, me holding up my new key. I can still see the flash in my eyes in those photos, the way I was smiling but trying not to cry. After dinner, when my aunt left and it was just my parents and me, my dad jingled his car keys in his hand, then paused. "Hey," he said casually, "before we go, I should probably get a copy of your key, just in case of emergency." The room seemed to shrink around me. I looked at him. "A copy?" I repeated. "Why?" He gave me a look like I'd just asked why people wear seatbelts. "What do you mean, why? What if you lose your key? What if something happens and we need to get in? It's just practical." My mom jumped in quickly, like she'd been waiting for this. "Of course we need a key," she said. "What if you're sick and not answering your phone? What if there's a leak or something and you're not home? We're just trying to be prepared." My heart started beating faster. The front door, the lock, the feeling of mine. It all suddenly felt like it was slipping through my fingers. I tried to think of how to say no without starting a fight. I only have this one right now," I said. "I didn't get any copies made yet." My dad frowned. "You only have one key? That's not safe. You're an adult now. You need to think ahead." My mom crossed her arms. "Why are you hesitating?" she asked. "We're not strangers. We're your parents. It's not like we do anything weird." My cheeks burned. I thought about all the times they'd opened my bedroom door without asking. All the times they'd read my messages over my shoulder. All the times they went through my stuff because you're our child. And here I was, about to repeat the same pattern but with new walls, new floors, a new door. I caved. I heard myself say, "Okay, I'll get a copy made tomorrow." My parents relaxed immediately. It was like I'd given them permission to merge my new life into their old habits. The next day on my lunch break, I stood in a hardware store watching a stranger cut a new key from my own. The sound of the machine was loud, grinding, metallic. I had this weird urge to grab the original key and run. Instead, I stood there, clutching my phone, telling myself I was being dramatic. They're your parents. They love you. They're not going to abuse it. It's just for emergencies. I handed my dad the copy at dinner that weekend. He hooked it onto his keyring with a satisfied little nod. "You'll thank me one day," he said. He had no idea how wrong he was. The first time they used the key, I wasn't even really mad. I was at work, sitting at my desk, when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mom. "Stopped by your place. Left some food in the fridge. Cleaned your sink. You're welcome. Love you." I blinked at the screen. I hadn't asked her to come over. I hadn't even known she was nearby. The mental image of my front door opening when I wasn't there made me feel strange. I took a breath. Okay, it was a one-time thing. She brought food. She cleaned the sink. That's not a big deal, right? I told myself to let it go. But then it happened again, and again, and again. A few days later, I came home and something felt off. Nothing giant, just small things. The sponge was on the other side of the sink. The chairs around my table were a little too perfectly aligned. A cup I'd left on the counter was in the drying rack. I opened the fridge. A covered dish sat on the middle shelf with a note taped to the top. Chicken and rice. Heat for 3 minutes. Love, Mom. My stomach dropped. She'd been here. Again. Without telling me. While I was at work. I called her. "Hey," she answered cheerfully. "Did you see the food? You never eat enough protein." "Were you in my apartment today?" I asked. "Yes," she said like it was obvious. "You weren't home, so I used the key. Your sink was full of dishes again. Honestly, if I didn't come check, you'd probably live in a mess." I swallowed. "Mom, you can't just come in here when I'm not home," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "You need to ask first." She sounded offended immediately. "I'm your mother," she said. "Why are you acting like I broke in? You gave us a key. We're just trying to help." I felt that familiar twist in my chest, the one that always came when they turned my needs into accusations. "I gave you that key for emergencies," I said. not for surprise visits. This is ridiculous, she snapped. You're taking this privacy thing too far. We raised you. We're not some random people. We went in circles like that, neither of us really moving. Eventually, I gave up, tired, and she hung up still muttering about me being overdramatic. After that, it wasn't just the dishes. I'd come home and find my trash emptied, even though it wasn't full. My towels would be refolded. My mail would be brought inside and stacked on the table in a new pile. Once, she left a sticky note on my fridge. You need more vegetables. I started to feel like my life was being quietly rearranged behind my back. I tried to set clearer boundaries. One Sunday dinner at their house, I brought it up again. Please don't come into my apartment when I'm not there, I said. Call me first. If I don't answer, just wait. Don't use the key unless it's urgent. My dad put down his fork and stared at me like I'd just told him I was moving to another country. You're acting like we're strangers, he said. Do you know how insulting that is? It's not about that, I said. It's about respect. My mom shook her head. We do everything for you, she said. We helped with your deposit, we bring you food, we check on you. And this is the thanks we get? Guilt, as always. I swallowed it down. I appreciate the help, I said slowly, but it doesn't give you the right to ignore what I'm asking you for. They didn't get it, or maybe deep down they did, and just didn't want to change. It got worse. One Saturday morning, I woke up to voices in my living room. I checked the clock, 8:10 a.m. My heart jumped into my throat. I got out of bed and walked down the hall. My parents were sitting on my couch. My aunt was there too. They had coffee and grocery bags and looked like they had been there a while. My mom turned and smiled like this was the most normal thing in the world. Oh good, you're finally awake, she said. We didn't want to wake you, so we just let ourselves in. I stared at them, my hair a mess, oversized t-shirt hanging off one shoulder. You, what? I said. How did you even get in here? My dad lifted his key. We knocked, you didn't answer, he said. We didn't want to drive all the way back. Relax, you're so tense. My aunt laughed from the couch. Look at this place, she said, turning her head. So cute. I love your curtains. My curtains. I hadn't even invited them. I forced myself through that morning, making small talk, trying not to scream. They stayed for 3 hours. When they finally left, I walked through the apartment and felt like a stranger in it. My downstairs neighbor caught me at the mailbox that afternoon. Your folks are sweet, he said. They're here a lot. Must be nice to have parents that involved. I hesitated. A lot? I asked. Yeah, he said. They've been here, 3, 4 times just this month? Sometimes with other people. Big family, huh? My skin crawled. I started noticing more things. The bathroom cabinet rearranged. My bedroom window cracked open for fresh air when I knew I'd left it closed. A small bag of my clothes missing from the chair, then folded and placed in my dresser. The worst was the day I came home and opened my bedroom closet. Everything had been reorganized. My shirts refolded, my jeans stacked by color, my underwear drawer opened, rifled through, tidied. I felt like I was going to be sick. I called my mom, my hands shaking. Did you go through my closet? I asked. Yes, she said. It was a mess. Someone had to do it. I don't know how you leave the house like that. You went through my drawers, I said quietly. My underwear, my personal things. She scoffed. You're my daughter. Stop being so dramatic. I've seen all of that before. My eyes burned. That doesn't make it okay, I said. This is my home, not your house. You can't just walk in and go through my stuff like that. She started in again with the guilt. How could I talk to her like this? After everything she'd done, after all the sacrifices, after all the help. I hung up. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the freshly folded clothes, and I made myself a promise. If they weren't going to respect my boundaries, I was going to teach them what boundaries felt like. I didn't know how yet. But the decision was made. The final straw came a few weeks later. It was a Thursday night and I was exhausted. I'd stayed late at work, my head pounding, my shoulders stiff. All I wanted was to unlock my door, kick off my shoes, heat something in the microwave, and fall into bed. As I walked down the hallway toward my apartment, I heard something. Laughter. Multiple voices. Clinking dishes. coming from the direction of my door. For a second, I thought maybe one of my neighbors was having people over and I was just hearing it through the wall. Then I reached my door. The noise was coming from inside. I felt my fingers tremble as I turned the knob. It was unlocked. I opened the door slowly. 6 heads turned toward me. My parents, my aunt, 2 of my parents' friends I barely knew, my cousin. They were all sitting around my coffee table with plates of food, cups, napkins, like it was their living room and I was the one walking in late. My mom's face lit up. "There you are," she said. "We thought you'd be home earlier. I made enough for you too. Come sit, I'll fix you a plate." Everyone smiled and started greeting me. Someone waved a fork. I just stood there, my bag still over my shoulder. "What is this?" I said, my voice low. "And how did you get in?" My dad shrugged, as if the answer was obvious. "Your mother had family over," he said. "We were already in the area. It's closer to come here than our place. You never used this space anyway. We knocked, you weren't here, so we used the key. Sit down, you're making everyone uncomfortable." I walked past them into the kitchen, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it. My mom followed, setting down a plate on the counter. "You're being weird," she hissed under her breath. "Everyone came to see you." "I didn't invite anyone here," I said, my voice shaking. "You gave people a tour of my apartment, without me, using a key I told you only to use in emergencies." "They're family," she said. "Don't act like this is some crime. We helped pay your deposit. It's not like you did this all on your own." That line, that one line. "We helped you, so we own a piece of this." I took a breath, then another. I walked back into the living room and looked at everyone sitting there, using my plates, my cups, my space. "I'm sorry," I said tightly, "but everyone needs to leave." The room went quiet. My aunt stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "What?" she said. "You all need to leave," I repeated. "Right now. I didn't invite you. I didn't know you were coming. This is my home, not a family event space." My mom's face turned red. "Don't embarrass me in front of everyone," she snapped. "We went to the trouble of cooking, bringing food, coming here. You're being rude." My dad stood up slowly. "You're overreacting," he said. "You think people your age don't have their parents over? Be grateful you have a family that wants to see you." I laughed. It came out sounding a little hysterical. "Grateful?" I said. "You walked into my apartment when I wasn't here. You brought people I didn't invite. You still think this place belongs to you." "What is wrong with you?" my aunt muttered under her breath. "What's wrong with me is that I never know who I'm going to find when I open my own front door," I said. "I never know what's been touched, moved, opened. I never get to feel alone in my own home. And I'm done pretending that's okay." My mom's eyes filled with tears. "This is ridiculous," she said. "Fine, we're going." They all packed up in this quiet, offended flurry. My mom slammed the cabinet as she put away the leftovers. My dad glared. My aunt whispered something about kids these days. Before he walked out, my dad turned to me. "You're going to regret this," he said. "You're pushing your family away over nothing. One day you'll see how wrong you are." The door shut. Their footsteps faded down the hall. The apartment was finally quiet. I sank down on the couch and started to cry. Because even when you know you're right, even when you know you're standing up for yourself, it still hurts to have people you love look at you like you're the villain. But that night, once the tears stopped, something in me went completely still. Cold. Calm. If they weren't going to listen to words, they were going to listen to consequences. 2 days later, I went to see my landlord. His office smelled like old coffee and printer paper. "Can I talk to you about something personal?" I asked. He looked surprised, but nodded. I sat down and took a breath. "My parents have a key to my apartment," I said. "They use it when I'm not home. They bring people in. They've gone through my things. I've asked them to stop. They won't. I need to know when my lease is up, and if there's any way I can move into a different unit without them knowing." His eyebrows went up. "Oh," he said slowly. "One of those situations." "You've seen this before?" I asked. He nodded. "You'd be surprised," he said. "Parents who still think the kid's place is their property. Exes who won't give up keys. It happens." He pulled up my information. "You've got about 3 months left on this lease," he said. "But we do have some flexibility. I manage another building a few blocks away. If you want, we could transfer your lease over there with no fee." New address, new lock, new everything. My heart started racing. How soon? I asked. As soon as the new place is ready, he said. A week or two, maybe. I'll need you to sign some forms. I'll do it, I said immediately. We filled out the paperwork. When I walked out of that office, the sun felt brighter. I pulled out my phone and texted my best friend, Lila. Emergency coffee, I need to tell you something wild. We met at our usual spot, a little cafe with mismatched chairs and plants on every windowsill. I ordered something sweet and barely touched it. Okay, what's going on? She asked, leaning forward. You look like you're about to confess to a crime. I laughed weakly. Maybe I am, I said. Depending on how you look at it. I told her everything. The key, the surprise visits, the breakfast ambush, the dinner party, the closet, the underwear drawer, the argument. By the time I finished, she looked furious on my behalf. They did all of that, she said. And they still think they're in the right? Apparently, I said. When I told them they couldn't just come in whenever they wanted, they said I was being ungrateful. She shook her head. Okay, no. You're not crazy. That's insane. I took a sip of my drink, my hands still a little unsteady. I'm moving, I said. To another apartment. Same landlord, different building. And I'm not telling them. At least not at first. She blinked. You're what? I'm going to move everything, I said. Quietly. A little at a time. Then, when they decide to drop by again, with their key, they're going to walk into an empty apartment. No furniture, no clothes, nothing. Lila stared at me, her mouth slightly open. That's intense, she said slowly. They're going to freak out. I know, I said. I'm counting on it. You're really okay with them thinking something terrible happened to you? She asked. I picked up a napkin and tore it into little pieces, my chest tight. I'm not going to let it go too far, I said. I'm not going to disappear for days. I want them to feel, for 1 hour, the panic I feel every time I realize they've been inside my home without me. She was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. You know what? She said. I support this. It's harsh, but they've ignored every normal boundary you tried to set. Maybe this is the shock they need. I feel kind of guilty, I admitted. Of course you do, she said. That's what they trained you to feel. But wanting privacy in your own home is not wrong. Over the next 2 weeks, my life turned into a slow-motion heist. I signed the papers for the new apartment. It was smaller, but brighter, with big windows and a slightly creaky wooden floor that felt warm under my feet. The first time I closed that door and turned the lock, I held the key in my hand and stared at it. No copies, I thought. Not this time. At my old place, I started packing things in waves. First, my important documents, small sentimental items, a week's worth of clothes. I took them over to the new apartment in suitcases and tote bags, acting like nothing was different if my parents texted or called. Next, my books and decorations. I left the shelves in place, but the shelves themselves started to empty. Lila helped on the weekends. Your mom would have a heart attack if she saw this, she said, carrying a box of dishes to her car. That's kind of the idea, I replied. I left just enough things to make the old apartment look lived in from a quick glance. A couple of pictures on the wall, a thrift store lamp, some cleaning supplies under the sink, a blanket folded on the couch. If my parents came by during this phase, I figured they'd just think I was cleaning or redecorating, not actually disappearing. One afternoon, as we loaded a small dresser into Lila's car, my phone buzzed. It was my dad. We're thinking of coming by Saturday, he said when I answered. Your aunt wants to see your place again. She loves it. My stomach lurched. I'm out of town this weekend, I said quickly. Work thing, training, we're doing some workshops. He grumbled, but didn't push too hard. Fine, he said. We'll come some other time. After we hung up, I looked at Lila. This has to be done before next weekend, I said. All of it. We moved like we were on a deadline, because we were. By the end of that week, my old apartment looked hollow. Almost everything was gone except my mattress, a cheap table, and a few random odds and ends. The night before the big reveal, I slept on that mattress on the floor, in a room that suddenly felt like a ghost of my life instead of my actual life. In the morning, I woke up early, rolled up the mattress, and carried it out. One last trip, one last load. When I closed the door behind me, my keys felt heavier in my hand. I didn't turn back. At my new place, I set up the mattress in the bedroom, put my pillows on it, and stood in the middle of the room. It was simple, still half finished, but when I walked from room to room, there were no traces of my parents anywhere. No curtains they'd picked out, no dishes they'd rearranged, no memories of unwanted guests sitting on my couch. It was just mine. Sometime around 11 a.m., my phone started ringing. I knew immediately what it meant. They'd gone to the old apartment. They'd opened the door with their key. They'd walked into nothing. I let it ring. Voicemail after voicemail came in. My mom sobbing, voice shaking. "Where are you? The apartment is empty. What happened? Please call us, please." My dad, trying to sound in control but not quite managing. "You better call us back right now. This isn't funny." My aunt, "Your mother is losing her mind. How could you do this?" I set my phone face down on the table. For the first time in months, I sat on my own couch and listened to silence. No one moving in the kitchen, no one opening doors, no one rearranging anything, just my breathing. The faint hum of the fridge, a car passing down on the street. After about an hour, my curiosity won. I picked up my phone and checked the messages. "Are you at the hospital? Did you have some emergency?" "We're calling your friends." "We are calling the police if you don't answer." "You're scaring us. This is not okay." "How could you do this to us?" That sentence again. How could you do this to us? Not, "Are you safe?" Not, "What happened? Are you okay?" To them, the real crime was that they didn't know where I was anymore. I called my mom first. She answered on the first ring, practically shouting. "Where are you?" she cried. "What is going on? We came to your apartment and it's empty. Everything is gone. The closets, the kitchen, the bed, everything. We thought... Her voice caught. In that moment, I could picture her perfectly. Standing in the middle of the empty living room, one hand pressed to her chest, my dad pacing, their shared panic filling the space that used to be mine. "I'm okay," I said quietly. She went silent. "You... what?" she said. "I'm okay," I repeated. "Nothing happened to me. I moved." "You... moved?" The word came out like an accusation. "What do you mean you moved? Where? Why didn't you tell us? Why would you do this?" "Because you wouldn't listen," I said. "You scared us half to death," she cried. "We were about to call the police. We thought someone had taken you, or that something horrible happened, or..." "For 1 hour," I said, my voice still calm. "You didn't know where I was. You walked into a place you thought was yours to enter any time, and it was empty. You felt panicked and out of control. That's how I've felt for months." "That is not the same," she snapped. "We're your parents. We were trying to help. We were checking on you. You had no right to move without telling us." "Yes," I said simply. "I did. I have every right to decide where I live and who gets to know my address." There was a beat of silence. Then her voice dropped, wounded and sharp at the same time. "How could you do this to us?" she whispered. "To your own parents?" Tears pricked my eyes. "How could you keep walking into my home after I begged you to stop?" I asked quietly. "How could you bring people over without asking? How could you go through my drawers, my closet, my things, and then call me dramatic when I said I felt violated?" She gasped. "Violated? That's a strong word," she said. "I am your mother. I have every right." "No," I cut in. "You don't. Not anymore. You had a right when I was a child living in your house, but I am an adult woman in my own home. You don't get automatic access. That's not how this works." I could hear her breathing on the other end, uneven, hurt. My dad's voice cut in suddenly as he took the phone from her. "Enough," he said. "Enough of this. You moved without telling us, fine, but this little stunt, leaving the apartment empty like that? You scared your mother. You crossed a line." "I asked you not to use the key unless it was an emergency," I said. "You kept doing it. I asked you not to come over unannounced. You kept doing it. I asked you to respect my space. You kept ignoring me. What was I supposed to do?" "Not this," he snapped. "You could have just changed the lock." "And you would have called me ungrateful and dramatic," I said. "You would have shown up at my job. You would have harassed the landlord. You would have told the entire family I'd turned my back on you." He didn't say anything. "So I did something you couldn't ignore," I continued. "You felt for 1 hour how I've felt almost every day since I moved out. Powerless, on edge, unsure of what you'd find when you opened that door." He was quiet for a beat. "This is revenge, then," he said. "You wanted to hurt us." "I wanted you to understand," I said. "Really understand. not just roll your eyes and tell me I'm overreacting. I'm not doing this to destroy our relationship. I'm doing this because the way things were was destroying me. This is not how you treat family, he said coldly. No, I replied. This is how you treat people who refuse to hear you until you scream, and I'm tired of screaming. So I acted. He took a breath. Fine, he said finally. You want to be independent? Be independent. Text us your new address. We're coming over to talk about this in person. No, I said. He sounded like he'd misheard me. What do you mean, no? I'm not giving you my address, I said. Not yet. You can't keep your address from your own parents, he exploded. That's insane. I'm not a child, I said. I'm an adult woman. I'm allowed to choose who knows where I live. Until I know you respect my boundaries, you're not getting that information. You're going to break your mother's heart, he said. She broke mine first, I said softly. Every time she walked into my home without asking, every time she read my messages over my shoulder, every time she opened a door I'd closed and called it love. I could feel him wanting to argue, to lecture, to guilt trip. Instead, he just said, unbelievable, and hung up. The silence that followed was strange. It hurt, but it was also peaceful in a way. I curled up on my new couch, pulled a blanket up over my legs, and stared at the ceiling. I had done it. I had pulled away in the most literal way possible, and now it was just me, alone in this new space, with no one else holding a key. For the next few days, the messages didn't stop. My mom sent long paragraphs about how much they'd worried, how I'd gone too far, how this was cruel. My aunt texted to say, you could have given them a warning. They're your parents, not your enemies. I didn't answer, at least not right away. Instead, I started going to therapy. I found a therapist online, a woman with kind eyes and a calm voice. In our first session, I spilled everything. I feel like a horrible daughter, I confessed. What kind of person hides where she lives from her own parents? My therapist tilted her head. What kind of parents walk into their adult daughter's home without permission, bring in guests, and go through her private belongings after she's asked them to stop? She asked gently. I stared at her. I mean, my parents, I said. But they didn't mean harm. Intent and impact are two different things, she said. They may have meant well, but the impact on you was fear, anger, anxiety, and a constant feeling of being unsafe in your own home. You are allowed to protect yourself from that, even if the people causing it say they love you. Something in my chest loosened. I feel guilty, I said again, softer this time. Of course you do, she replied. But just because you feel guilty doesn't mean you did something wrong. You chose yourself in a situation where no one else was choosing you. That isn't cruelty, that's survival. Weeks went by. My mom kept calling. Sometimes I answered, sometimes I didn't. When I did, she would cry and ask why I was punishing them. I'm not trying to punish you, I'd say. I'm trying to protect myself. She never liked that answer. My dad stayed quieter. He'd call once in a while, his tone stiff, asking if I was eating, if I needed anything, and then eventually circling back to, are you ready to give us your address yet? No, I'd say. Not yet. One day, about a month after my move, my mom called and didn't launch straight into accusations. She just said, hi, in a small voice. Hi, I replied. There was a pause. How are you? She asked. I'm okay, I said. How are you? Your father's still mad, she said. Your aunt keeps talking about it. I miss you. I stared at the ceiling. I miss you too, I said. It was true. Why did you have to do it like that? She asked quietly. Why didn't you just yell at us or take the key away? Anything but this. I did yell, I said. I did talk. I did ask. So many times. You called me ungrateful, dramatic, brainwashed. You told me parents don't need permission to visit their child. Nothing changed. I was just trying to help, she whispered. I didn't want you living like a pig. I wanted to make sure you were okay. I know you think you were helping, I said softly. But you weren't helping me. You were helping yourself feel needed. You were treating my home like a second house for you. I never asked for that. She started to cry. I don't know how to be your mother if I'm not involved, she said. I don't know how to wait for you to invite me instead of just coming. It feels like you don't need me. Tears filled my eyes. I do need you, I said. I need you to respect me. I need you to listen when I say no. I need you to stop using guilt when I set a boundary. I need you to meet the version of me that exists outside of your control. She sniffed. I don't know if I can do that, she admitted. That sentence hurt more than anything else. Because what do you do when your own mother says, I don't know if I can love you in a way that doesn't hurt you? We didn't fix it in that one phone call, but we started something. A little crack in the wall of, this is just how we are. A couple of weeks later, my dad called. I've been thinking, he said, sounding tired. About that day, about the empty apartment, about everything. Okay, I said carefully. You scared us, he said. Your mother still wakes up sometimes thinking about it. I'm not going to pretend that was okay. I know, I said quietly. I didn't expect you to like it. But, he continued, surprising me. I also realized, I don't really know you. I blinked. What do you mean? I asked. I mean, I know the basics, he said. Your birthday, your favorite cereal when you were 9, how you like your eggs. But I don't know your life now unless I force my way into it. I thought being a good father meant being involved in every detail. But maybe that's not how it works when your daughter is grown. My throat felt tight. That's what I've been trying to say, I replied. He sighed. I still don't like what you did, he admitted. I think it was extreme, but it made me realize something. If you felt like disappearing was your only option, we must have really not been listening. We talked for a long time. He asked me to explain clearly what my boundaries were. So I did. I need you to understand that my home is mine, I said. If I give you my address one day, it doesn't come with a key. It doesn't mean you can visit whenever you feel like it. It means you are welcome when I invite you, not whenever you decide. He was quiet. No key, he repeated. None at all? None, I said. If there's ever a real emergency, I will handle it, or I will ask for help. But I can't go back to constantly wondering who's been in my space. He grunted. I don't like it, he said. But I hear you. It felt like the first real step forward. We made a deal. For a while, we would meet in public places, cafes, parks, restaurants. Neutral ground where there were no doors to unlock, no boundaries to test. The first time we did that, my mother clung to me like I'd been away at war. You look thinner, she said, inspecting me. I'm fine, I said, smiling a little. I eat. We sat at a small table by the window. They asked about my job, my friends, my week. They didn't ask where I lived, not that day. It took months. Months of small talks, careful conversations, and tiny tests. Every time my mom tried to slip into old habits, you should just tell us where you live, it would be easier. I reminded her gently of my boundary. Every time my dad made a comment about kids these days and their privacy, I'd look at him and say, you agreed to this. Slowly, something changed. They didn't become perfect. They didn't suddenly turn into experts at respecting boundaries. But they were trying, really trying. About 6 months after I moved, I decided something. We were at a cafe, like usual. My parents across from me, my mom stirring sugar into her coffee, my dad scrolling through something on his phone. I want to tell you something, I said. They both looked up. I'm ready to give you my address, I said, and I'm ready to invite you over, one time, to start, as guests, so you can see where I live now, but there have to be rules. My mom's eyes filled with tears immediately. Yes, of course, she said. Anything. We'll do anything. No key, I said. Ever. No copy, no just in case. You come when I invite you. You leave when the visit is over. You don't show up unannounced, and you don't bring anyone else without asking me first. My dad nodded slowly. Fine, he said. We can do that. And you stay in the areas I show you, I added. You don't open closed doors. You don't go through my things. You don't rearrange anything. You treat my home like you would treat the home of a friend or coworker, not like an extension of your own. My mom kept nodding. We understand, she said. We'll be perfect guests. You'll see. I gave them the address. The night they came over for the first time, I was nervous. More nervous than I'd been for any job interview or exam. I cleaned, not out of fear of my mother's judgment this time, but because I wanted the place to feel good for me. I cooked a simple dinner. I lit one candle. When the doorbell finally rang, my heart skipped. I opened the door. My parents stood there, holding a pie. Just them. No cousins, no aunts, no surprise guests. "Hi," my mom said softly. "Hi," I replied. "Come in." They stepped inside and looked around. I watched their eyes move over the living room. The photos on the wall, the plant in the corner, the blanket draped over the back of the couch. They didn't rush in like they owned the place. They waited by the door until I gestured them further. "Your place is beautiful," my mom said. "It feels like you." "Thank you," I said. We had dinner. There were awkward pauses, yes. Little moments where old habits almost slipped through. At one point, my mom said, "You know, if you moved that shelf..." I raised an eyebrow. "Mom," she stopped. "Right, sorry," she said. "Not my house." We all laughed a little, even my dad. After we ate, my mom asked, "Can we see the rest?" "Yes," I said. "I'll give you a tour." I led them through the apartment. My bedroom, the door already open. My tiny office corner, the bathroom. They peeked in, smiled, commented softly. They didn't touch anything. When my mom saw a framed photo on my dresser, a picture of the three of us from years ago, she picked it up carefully. "You kept this," she whispered. "Of course I did," I said. She turned to me, tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she said, "for before, for not listening, for acting like your space was mine. I didn't know how to let go." I nodded. "I know," I said. "But you're learning. That's what matters." My dad cleared his throat. "I'm also sorry," he said, staring at the pie box on the counter instead of at me. "For the key, for the drop-ins. I thought I was protecting you. Really, I was just protecting my own comfort. I see that now." I felt something in my chest ease. "Thank you for saying that," I said. "It means a lot." When they left that night, my mom turned at the door. "Do you want us to text when we get home?" she asked, out of habit. I smiled. "Yes," I said. "I'd like that." "And next time we want to visit," my dad added slowly, "we'll call first and wait for you to say yes." I nodded. "That's all I ever wanted," I replied. After they were gone, I closed my door, locked it, stood there for a long moment, just listening to the quiet. The apartment felt different than it had the day I moved in. Not because anything physical had changed, but because I had. I had drawn a line and kept it. I had vanished from my parents' reach long enough to show them that my life was my own. And when I came back into their lives, it was on my terms. Some people will probably say I went too far, that disappearing like that was cruel, that I should have found a softer way. Maybe they're right. Maybe there was another way. But here's what I know. I tried everything else first. I tried being polite. I tried reasoning. I tried explaining my feelings. I tried compromising. Nothing changed. They didn't listen until I made it impossible for them not to. So I did the only thing I could think of that would speak loud enough. I took away their access. I showed them what it felt like to stand in a place you thought you had a right to and realize you didn't. If you're listening to this and any part of my story sounds familiar, if you have someone in your life who treats your space like it's theirs, who ignores your no, who uses love as a reason to cross every line, I'm not telling you to vanish, but I am telling you this. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to keep your own key to your own life. You are allowed to choose who gets in, when, and for how long. Even if they say, "But I'm family." Even if they say, "But I love you." Even if they say, "But I did so much for you." Love without respect doesn't feel like love. It feels like control. Setting boundaries isn't betrayal. Sometimes it's the only way to protect the parts of you that those people never learn to see. My revenge wasn't about hurting my parents forever. It was about waking them up. It was about holding up a mirror and saying, "This is what you've been doing to me. Now that you've felt it yourself, are you willing to change?" And in their own imperfect way, they answered yes. They still slip sometimes. They still get tempted to ask for more access than I'm comfortable giving. But now there is a line they know I will enforce. Because I proved I'm willing to walk away from being their little girl, if that role means losing myself. I'm still their daughter. But I'm also my own person. I have my own life, my own space, my own key. And this time, when I lock my door at night, I know. If it ever opens again, it will be because I chose to open it.